She's known as the land of enchantment, from her prairies to the Rocky Mountains, canyons, peaks, lakes, and creeks. She's a proud symbol of blended cultures with a rich history of pioneers and indigenous people. She has outlaws, lawmen, and legends. She is truly enchanting. She is her own universe. And you are now in the New Mexico world. I'm Danny Fletcher, and you're listening to the New Mexico world. As a matter of fact, this is my first episode with this channel, and I'm excited because my first guest is the mayor of Rio Rancho, Gregg Hull. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Danny. Thanks for having me and for making it the first show. I'm excited about that.
Well, I've had the title, and I've had the the YouTube and the podcast all set up. I just haven't done it. And then the other day, you said something to me about maybe I ought to interview mayors around the state.
Absolutely.
And I thought, well, this is about time to pull out New Mexico world right now.
There you go.
Hey, thank you for making time for me today.
You're very welcome.
It's a Monday, and I know they can be pretty hectic sometimes.
They are. But fortunately, I leave a little bit of time in my Mondays to kind of create some flexibility. It's the first of the week for everybody. So.
Well, Mayor, I wanted to talk to you first because I hear and I read and I see all the tremendous things you're doing at Rio Rancho.
Yes.
And it's pretty excited stuff. Like, you're not a newcomer at this either.
No.
You're on your third term?
Third term.
Third term. Well, why don't we start from when did you get to Rio Rancho? It was 30-something years ago, wasn't it? Almost 40 years ago.
Well, we actually got to New Mexico about that time. So moved to New Mexico in 1986. And my oldest daughter was born in New Mexico in 1987. And then 3 years later, my other daughter was born in 1990. And then I met Carrie, and we were a blended family. So we've got a total of 5 kids. But once we got into New Mexico, I think it was, I want to say it was in the, probably the early 90s, I want to say. We moved to Albuquerque. We had our little 14 by 52 mobile home we had bought in Santa Fe, and it was set up in a mobile home park there. We pulled it here to Albuquerque, left the cat in the
mobile home of the house.
So I remember
the cat had a good ride.
Yeah, the cat had a good ride. So we pulled it to Albuquerque, and then eventually, I think it was late 90s, we ended up here in Rio Rancho. So we've been in Rio Rancho since about 96.
Now, you got 5 kids.
5 kids.
And 8 grandkids.
9.
9 grandkids.
Yeah, I need to update the bio because the 9th one just arrived a couple of weeks ago. Yes.
Boy or girl?
A girl.
And
so now the girls outweigh the boys, in total. So that's 5 granddaughters and 4 grandsons.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you.
Big families are great.
They are. We fortunately we were able to get them 5 of the 9 together yesterday for my wife's birthday. So surprised her. All the grandkids showed up at church.
So it was her birthday yesterday?
Yes, it
Happy
sure was.
birthday, Carrie! I just met her.
Yeah.
What a great lady.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. She's an amazing lady. She does a great job.
Maybe I need to interview her. Like, what is it like to be married to the mayor of Rio Rancho?
Man, no, that can only end in tears.
I'm sure she supports you a lot. Now you just came back from a church retreat, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You were down my part of this.
Yes, down in Roswell. Went down there. It was Tabernacle Baptist was holding a little event down there, and went down there, and it was really a great little kind of time away. But at the same time, I got to meet with a few people down there, and it made some new friends. And it's always great to get around the state and see what other people are doing, and see some of the different parts of our state. Our state is so vast and really diverse when you think about all the 4 corners of this state and how different they are from community to community. And Rio Rancho is one of the youngest communities in the state.
One of the youngest, but already the second largest city in the state.
Yeah, the preliminary numbers we're seeing is we are now in that slot of second largest. We won't have it absolutely confirmed until the next census, which comes up in 2030. But in the last census, we were trailing Las Cruces by about 3,000 in population. And we've just seen explosive growth in the last 5 years here in Rio Rancho with new homes coming in, people moving in from not only just all over the country, but around the state. Rio Rancho is this really cool blend of individuals that have moved here from Santa Fe, Las Vegas, New Mexico, Albuquerque. We've got folks that live here from Roswell. We've got folks that live here from Jow. They've just come from all over the state to live right here in Rio Rancho. And so it's a really cool blend of pretty much anywhere in the state, you'll find them living here in Rio Rancho.
Well, it's a happening city. It is. I mean, everything I'm seeing, everything I'm reading, you guys are growing like crazy.
Yep.
And just becoming a dynamic community here in New Mexico.
We really are. And when I first took office back in 2014, and that's when I was first elected, that was, and I've been reelected twice, so this is my third term. And the city was just really kind of in full-on stagnation. It did not come out of the 2008 housing, the subprime market and just the housing crash at that time, and then went into the recession. And Rio Rancho was really struggling to come out of that. We had foreclosures all over this city, from investors that had just abandoned them, short sales all over the city. So, and the other thing is we were not seeing the economic growth that we wanted to see. And when we were talking about that, Danny, we were talking about just getting retailers to come to the city because we were losing all of our tax revenue basically to Albuquerque because when you'd leave the city and go shop somewhere else, they'd get the sales tax or the gross receipts tax, and we wouldn't get any of that. And so it was really difficult to build our local economy and do the things we needed to do, pay our police, pay our fire, fix our streets, just improve the community. It was impossible to do with all of our revenue leaving the city as people would go to work and do other things outside the city. Now what we've seen is this big kind of turnaround in that with a lot of the retailers coming into the city. We've really created that opportunity. The housing market's booming, and we've just really had to start from a ground level basis and rebuild it step by step. And here we are 11 years later, and we've got a pretty good run at it.
Well, which year was it where it looked like you might lose Intel?
Yeah, that was when I took office. Intel, we felt like they really had kind of one foot out the door. And I know a lot of people around the state see Intel as a Rio Rancho, Albuquerque thing, but really the fact that Intel's in New Mexico and it's a New Mexico manufacturer, it really brings a lot to the New Mexico economy.
Now, I was noticing when I was driving up here from Carlsbad and coming into Rio Rancho and looked over there at Intel, looks like they're doing some construction there.
Oh yeah, there's construction just about all the way up here as you come up. Now, when you just get to Intel, the city of Albuquerque, their city limits is pretty much right there. So there's some stuff going on down in Albuquerque. But then as you come up into Rio Rancho, we've got a lot of things going on over here. We've got a new grocery store that's about to open up. It's in Albertsons Market Street, and everybody's very excited about that. We've got a lot of new developments in that same area, like Furniture Row, and a new credit union and a new Blake's Lotaburger just opened up. Just a lot in that area, in what we call the unserved gateway as you come in. Russ Medical Center's expanded twice. Well, actually 3 times since I've been in office.
Wow.
So they're continuing to add services there. So that's just on the south end. If you got up to the north end of the city, Danny, you're going to see Plaza de Enchanted Hills, which we had a hard time getting that one started early on because there just wasn't. Retail is really changing. The face of retail is really changing, and building big box stores, as I say, is really kind of going the way of the dodo bird.
Right.
Really, it is. And so getting them to invest and actually start and kick off a retail center was a heavy lift. But now it's one of the most vibrant retail centers in the region up there, with a new Sprouts in it and a really exciting venue called The Block, which is kind of an outdoor eatery where they do all kinds of performances there. They've got a big screen TV, and they've got a really nice lounge area upstairs called Top of the Block. And people are just loving that, and we've never had something like that before.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I just drove around town last night and a little bit this morning, and I did go up north of here. Is that north?
Yeah, north. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like I thought I thought it ended back there, Rio Rancho.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no. It's going. It keeps going every
Yeah.
time I'm here.
Yes. So this is 100. Well, our city's 103 square miles now, mostly undeveloped at this point in time. A lot of room. One of the big kind of barriers to a lot of our developments in the city is the fact that we still have this problem called antiquated platting. So you see a lot of open areas. Mind you, I didn't call it open space, okay? Because all of these open areas are pretty much owned by somebody somewhere around the world. And so they're kind of more or less what we would refer to as undeveloped yet. But getting all those properties back together, getting them to where you can assemble meaningful tracts of property to do some nice developments has always been a challenge. It will be a challenge going into the future, but we've managed to work with some folks and figure it out, and we've been able to move Rio Rancho along pretty nicely over the last 10 years.
Now, you've only been mayor almost 12 years,
Yep.
11 years, something. Is it true that when Rio Rancho was first started, a lot of folks from New York moved down here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, New York, New Jersey, East Coasters. They were coming out buying these half-acre parcels of property, and they still own them.
That's what I heard.
And then so there were quite a few individuals that moved here from New York and New Jersey, like say East Coast, and we had this place called Rio Rancho Estates, and it really wasn't a city yet. It was just it's kind of a subdivision of Albuquerque that was in Santa
Kind of a
County.
planned community?
Yes, yeah. And the original Rio Rancho Estates is just to the east of us over here as you get across Golf Course Road. And they were half-acre parcels, mostly single-story houses. And it was, and if you go back and look at some of the old sales brochures, those sales brochures, you could get into a brand new house on a half-acre property for like $8,000, $10,000, $15,000, so it was pretty inexpensive.
So it was a good investment for those Yankees up north.
Yeah. Well, if you still have one of those houses today, it's probably worth it, easily triple digits, 100, high hundreds, low 200,000s in value. Still have that. And that area is actually quite popular for redevelopment now. If somebody takes out one of the old houses, they'll put back a brand new contemporary house, but they've got that half acre for those individuals that are glutton for punishment. Half acre's a lot to take care of. I don't think
a lot to take care of.
Yeah, it's a lot to take care of. And here at Rio Rancho, one of the things we've been focused on is kind of getting people to draw back from, covering their entire property in grass, because water is a valuable commodity, right? And so we incentivize removing grass, but we'll get somebody that says, I'm going to do a half acre and it's going to be this. And good luck with water and all that.
Yeah.
Taking care of it.
I wouldn't want a half acre right now. I love your home. You don't have a half acre. That's probably perfect for what you do.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
And-
I've got it's a smaller backyard there, but it's
beautiful.
It's our little paradise.
You got cherry trees out there. How
Yes.
bad could that be?
Yeah, exactly.
And thank you for inviting me into your home.
Oh no, my pleasure.
It's a beautiful house, and I love your little puppies. I don't know where they were. I think they went upstairs so they
Well,
wouldn't interrupt.
Carrie took them upstairs. They gave you their typical welcome of incessant barking, but
Yeah, they checked me out. They smelled around and
Yeah.
smelled my dogs and go, okay, he's okay. He likes dogs.
I don't know if you caught on to their names, but the one dog's name is Sheldon, the other one's Cooper. So named after
okay.
the Jim Parsons, named after the Jim Parsons character in Big
Yeah.
Bang Theory.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you've owned a couple of businesses here. Do you still own a business here?
No, I sold my business. It was a packing and shipping company. We did large-scale packing and crating for a lot of various different places around New Mexico, Sandia National Labs, Intel Corporation, Los Alamos National Labs. A lot of different, very large-scale, what we call OEM specification crating and packing. But we also did fine art and antiques. So we were kind of the premier shipper for antiques and artwork out of the Albuquerque area. So we'd run around, pick all that artwork up. We'd go to Santa Fe, pick up the artwork up there on a weekly basis, bring it back down, get it all packed up, get it shipped out. And we've designed crates for every type of scenario and for some top secret stuff and then some just everyday stuff. So it was a lot of fun. But in 2012. I just felt the need to step back from that and take a breather and sold the company I took a year off. I was trying to do some business consulting for some businesses here in Rio Rancho and Albuquerque. And quite honestly, I realized how hard it was just to get a basic business license in the city of Rio Rancho. And that kind of motivated me in that direction, saying there should not be these types of impediments to investment and to growth, and especially the impediments to businesses, which bring jobs and they bring GRT and they bring property tax, which help cities actually pay their police and pay their firefighters and
What a concept,
fix their
huh?
roads, right?
So you got that all fixed?
Well, it's not all fixed, but we've moved it in a direction. Well, within 2 years of my taking office, we were recognized nationally as one of the best cities in the country to open a small business in. That was
wow.
within 2 years.
Well, can you do anything to make it easier to do business in the state?
We would love to do that, but that's going to be a heavy lift.
Yeah.
That's going to be a heavy lift.
Yeah, it is. But hopefully the powers to be will figure it out, because I think, in my opinion, I think we lose a lot of business to the other states.
We do. We're not really we don't have our competitive mode on, honestly. It almost seems like the things that the legislature does is geared towards shutting businesses down or making sure that they don't come into the state. And quite frankly, if you don't grow your economy, and I call it spreading out the tax base as opposed to stacking it. But if you get to a place where you can't continue to grow and you can't spread out and you can't add those new revenues to your existing tax base, then obviously with anything, and any business knows this, it never gets cheaper to operate a business. It never gets cheaper. It only gets more expensive. It's the same thing with running a wastewater treatment facility. It's the same thing with paying police officers. It's the same thing with paying firefighters. That infrastructure doesn't get cheaper to operate just because it's government infrastructure, right? So you've got to keep up with the wages. You've got to keep up with the expenses. Fire trucks and police cars, they wear out. And so when one wears out and you buy one 5 years later, it's more expensive. And so all of those things add up. So if you shut down your growth and you expect to continue to pay for those things, the only way to continue to pay for them is to increase the costs of the people that live in the city, i.e. taxes, right? And so what we've done here in Rio Rancho is we've really kind of shown forth that model. Our gross receipts tax today is the same as it was when I took office in 2014.
Really?
Yep. And
Wow.
and we're lower than Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Las Cruces in our gross receipts rates.
Wow. That makes the town a little bit attractive, doesn't
Right,
it?
it does. And our property tax mill rate, that's the percentage of millage that you pay on your property tax that they calculate the total bill on. Our property taxes today are lower today than they were when I took office on both commercial and residential properties on the mill rate. Now, I had a guy tell me the other day, he says, well, I'm writing a bigger check than I was 10 years ago. I said, yes. That's because 10 years ago, your house was worth $160,000 on the average. The median household value, the average sale price of a home was about $160,000 when I took office. Today, it's about $360,000.
Wow.
So you're paying a lower mill rate, but you're paying tax on a higher value.
Sure.
So we've actually, in corporate speak, we've increased your value without increasing your cost basis.
Now, there's opponents and other people that support that a businessman or woman make good community leaders. And then there's other ones on the other side of that saying, no, we don't need a business leader to do this. But running a city or the state, isn't that a business?
It really is. Now, there are different components to it because in any business, what you try to do is you try to make every aspect of that business a profit center or at least a break even. Very few businesses are designed off of loss leaders. You do have some businesses like that. Well, a municipality basically is a loss leader because you put police and fire in there, and that's not a profit center, right? Those are services that you're going to provide. You're paving roads and putting in sidewalks. Those don't generate revenue, right? So if you don't bring the businesses in and the additional individuals, you're starting off in a deficit the minute you get started because you're providing services that are funded out of a tax base. And as I mentioned, as the cost of those things go up, you have to look at, okay, how are we going to make up that increase in expenses and do it in a business manner where we control the impact to our customers. So businesses don't like to raise prices on their products, right? But that's an inevitability. So you've got a little bit different balance to it than just a straight ledger sheet, because there are those services that you provide regardless of who's in the community and regardless of what your tax base is. So that's the key difference.
Sure.
But ultimately, yes, when you look at stuff from a business standpoint, you've got to balance your budget. You've got to live within your means. You've got to try to provide the best possible service and value to your customers that you can for the money that you're getting. And any elected official I know and any business person I know, they're hard pressed to raise their prices. But you've seen that so much in the recent years where prices have gone up based on other cost factors. Those cost factors impact a city in a pretty big way. When fuel prices go up, remember, we have a whole fleet of vehicles that have to be fueled, so it drives up our cost. Sure. So we have to look at other places we can either cut, adjust, or modify our spending in order to accommodate those increases, with the hopes that maybe that's a temporary increase. Those fuel prices come down, we can stabilize that line item and not have to raise kind of prematurely raise fees or taxes in order to compensate for that. But you're exactly right. It is all very business oriented.
Well, business development is important to any community.
Yes.
And it just seems to me, and this is my opinion, that someone who with as much experience in business, successfully in business, as you've had, makes it a little bit easier to talk to companies like Intel and companies coming in. You can talk their lingo.
Absolutely. And that's also been where I've been able to help get small businesses started in Rio Rancho. If you look at the numbers of actual home occupation businesses, we have an inordinately high number of small businesses that are actually being run from the homes here in Rio Rancho. We have a large number of patents that come out of Sandoval County and Rio Rancho as well, because of some of the innovators that we have living right here in the community. And so when you can speak their lingo, you can really kind of, and when you say that, you have no idea how on the money you are with this. When I took office, government speak was a completely different language, right, than business speak. And I had to figure out, okay, what you're talking about. I remember I had an engineer, I'll tell you a funny story. He literally explained to me that to fix this one road, we had to reduce the vertical curve so that we could mitigate the fugitive water. Now I'm like, what are you talking about, vertical curve? He says, well, you got to cut the hill down. I said, then just say cut the hill down. Just cut the hill down and fix the drainage is what I heard you say. It's, yes, okay. I said, it's got a drainage issue.
But it sounded impressive, Mayor.
It did.
It sounded impressive anyway.
And so you had to learn that speak. But that being said, going back to that, I have literally had small businesses in the last 11 years sit with me right here at this table. So when you say thank you for inviting me into my home, I bring citizens right into this house and we sit down at this table, and I've helped them fill out the business license forms, showed them how to file with the federal government to get a federal employment identification number, an EIN, showed them how to fill out their CRS-1s, showed them how to fill out the ES forms for the unemployment stuff, and just walked them through that, because I've had all that experience in setting up a company, and it is a step-by-step. And then once you get all that paperwork filled out, then you get to go to the bank and apply for a checking account. And then you want to go online and pick out a good accounting system that'll help you track all that stuff as you start to draw money in and expend money, and then making sure that you're filing on time so that you don't pay these heavy-duty penalties
right.
to the government, right? You want to be efficient about the way you're doing stuff and paying attention so that you don't get zinged by some of those trip hazards, as I call them, throughout the government process.
Well, I know you're on top of everything here in Rio Rancho, But I'm looking at my notes here. You're involved in a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Tell us about everything you're involved in.
Well, that's a long list. I mean,
I know. That's why I want you to do it.
Right now I'm currently the president-elect of the New Mexico Municipal League, and the Municipal League is an organization where all of the municipalities come together to either advocate for or against legislation that might be happening at the Roundhouse, and we coordinate on many other things. And we have our communications with the U.S. Conference of Mayors and the National League of Cities, and making sure we're communicating with other organizations to make sure we're doing the right things, not only for our own communities, but for New Mexico as a whole. And I was the chairman of the New Mexico Mayor's Caucus for 8 years, and I was one of the founding members of that, because I went to a couple of U.S. Conference of Mayors meetings, and that, don't get me wrong, that organization had value. It has value, but I just didn't see the value it had to me as a medium to small size city. When you go there and they're passing stacks of resolutions this high, and you really don't know what all of them say. And so I said, look, what we need an organization like this in New Mexico. And I remember at the time I reached out to Mayor R.J. Berry at the time, because he was a member of the U.S. Conference of Mayors.
Sure.
I said, R.J., we've got to do this in New Mexico, because the New Mexico mayors need to talk to each other about the things that are going on, because I have mayors that are down south that don't know what we're doing in water conservation and preservation up here in Rio Rancho. And there has been the statement that Rio Rancho is just up there sucking up all the water. And really, we do more than just about any other city in the state to use that water, clean it, and put it back where it came from, whether that's in the river or back in the aquifer. And so we are leading the state there, because we do want to be a good neighbor in that area. And that's the big question when you see the development and growth that you're having in Rio Rancho. People always go to, well, where are you going to get the water? Water is going to be a long-term concern with the state of New Mexico and any economic development growth. But there are ways to meet those challenges now that will take the current resources that we have and extend them out further than what they would go right now if we just use them up. We can do things, and we can invest in things that extend the future of New Mexico, the water future of New Mexico, and extend our ability to develop and grow and bring jobs to the state of New Mexico. So we want to look at that. So as the chairman of the New Mexico Mayor's Caucus, I moved around the state a lot just talking to mayors. We really all came together during the pandemic. That was a tough time for every city in the state of New Mexico.
Yeah.
So every municipality struggled with that one. And along with that organization, I'm currently the chairman of the Mid-Region Council of Governments, and that's where a lot of federal dollars come in for transportation needs throughout the region. And that's a 5-county region that board that I sit on. This is my second time being the chair of that board, and I've been the vice president of it twice, and before that a very active board member, trying to understand how we're going to deploy dollars. And that's an organization that when that federal funding comes in, we have to look at the outlying communities, we have to look at Edgewood, we have to look at Belen, we have to look at Bosque Farms, we have to look at Rio communities and Bernalillo and Corrales, all of these communities that are in that region, to make sure that we all get some of that federal funding for our roads, because transportation throughout this region is a critical deal. And then, yes, Albuquerque is a part of that, and they're the core of it. And that gives us all a voice when Albuquerque is the big dog in the room. It gives us all a voice to come together and say, we want to make sure that all the money's not just dropping in Albuquerque and the rest of us are kind of left without that. So it's a great organization that really kind of pays attention to the transportation needs of the region. And obviously with a growing community like Rio Rancho, transportation is a huge deal.
And water. Yeah.
And water, right,
Yeah.
Exactly. And then other boards and commissions that I've been on throughout the state, Haven House, I've been on that board, domestic violence board, and then quite a few others. I'm sitting here trying to think of all of them, but there's quite a few of them that I'm currently involved in. And the Metropolitan Transportation Board, that's another one, because we do have Rio Metro that comes up in here, and that deals with some of the public transportation, the buses, and We have a senior population that relies on those buses to pick them up and get them places. And Rio Rancho doesn't have its own standalone, public transportation system. We're so spread out. Still a pretty small community for an expense like that. And we're exploring other ways to provide public transportation without deploying millions and millions and millions of dollars for a bus system that might mostly run empty. Right. So we're looking for other innovative ways to meet those transportation needs.
And a lot of the transportation facilities and buses in the smaller towns stuff, they do, a lot of them go empty.
Yeah.
And there's probably, it's good to have.
Right.
Awesome to have, but there's a lot of things on the list that are awesome to have.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm a big proponent. I'm a big advocate for putting things out into the private industry, letting the market deal with these things. So one of the ideas that we've been bouncing around haven't really come to a solid way of how we're going to deal with it just yet. I'm working with some state legislators. I'm working with other communities where instead of us buying all this equipment and hiring all of these employees, which once again becomes service-based and not a profit center, which if you're a business, you don't like loss leaders.
Right.
You like profit makers. So you've got to look at those things, Danny.
Yeah, but the cities and municipalities aren't made for profit. They're made to be able to pay for everything and expand.
Correct.
There's that big divide right there.
And my idea on that is we have the infrastructure. Not every town has this, but Rio Rancho's at a place where we have the infrastructure with Uber and Lyft and on-demand ride services where instead of buying all the equipment and employing all the people, you use the infrastructure that's already in place and just set up a fund where a senior citizen could get a ride and that's point-to-point service as opposed to trying to catch one bus to another and get to where they're trying to go, but actually have on-demand point-to-point ride service that could be billed against a setup, fund that was there where that when they got in the car and they gave them that card, that would just bill back to that and it'd give them those on-demand services without all the overhead of operating a massive bus system.
Sure. Now, 5 kids, 9 grandkids, 3 little puppies, or 2 little puppies, 2 little puppies. They sound like 3.
They do. They do.
And everything you're telling me, what's on your? And you said you like to make lists because me and I make lists. I'm a list guy.
Yes.
So what's on your list for Rio Rancho here in the immediate future?
Well, on our immediate list is continuing to move forward. It's funny. Number 1 on the list is just maintaining good public safety. That's the big one. Infrastructure. I've become known as the orange barrel mayor or the infrastructure mayor. And every time I've been reelected, so mayor, what are you going to do differently this time? And I look at him and I go, nothing.
I ran into a few of those orange barrels
right.
on the way over here.
Yeah.
But that's all good.
It is.
That's all good.
It shows you that we've got a vibrant economy going on and we're taking the dollars that we're getting and we're investing them back in the community where they benefit the citizens that are paying for those things. Yeah. It's really not a complicated thought process.
Right. So is there anything that I've missed that we need to talk about?
Well, Rio Rancho is an amazing community. Just going back on the history a little bit, we're 43 years old, going to be 44 coming up here pretty quick.
Still young.
Oh yeah, I call it, in city years, I call us a tweenager.
Oh, so, that's true. That's probably true.
In city years, we're just coming out of that toddler phase of learning who we are and what's going to happen and how to do it. Now we're in that tweenager stage where we're starting to get our legs underneath us and figure out what life's all about.
Talk about a fast-growing community in just that amount of years. That's amazing.
Yes,
that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. It's been an amazing journey. And when you look at it, now I've been the mayor for 11 years of those 43 years. So I've been the mayor of Rio Rancho for 25% of its history, and I'm currently the longest-serving mayor of the city. And that's been just an absolute amazing honor. I've been so humbled by the citizens of Rio Rancho wanting to, continue to keep me around, and that's a humbling feeling. My last election, we won with almost 70% of the vote, and and we were just my wife and I have just been absolutely humbled by the support from the community, and we love the community. We love the people of Rio Rancho, but we also love the people we meet all over New Mexico. Right. When I'm out traveling around and talking to other mayors, and I get introduced at various different functions, they don't necessarily know my name immediately, and they don't know they haven't seen a picture of me yet. But they do know Rio Rancho, and they go, "So you're the mayor of Rio Rancho? We hear great things up there."
And that's very true. Your reputation precedes you, and it's all good, and it's really good.
And by the way, this is not what I normally look like. It's okay. I'm not bemoaning it, but as you said, I've got a lot on my agenda. So not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, we have an event called St. Baldrick's here in Rio Rancho.
Baldrick's.
Where you raise money and you donate it to childhood cancer. And so I got up on stage, and my wife cringed a little bit when I said it. I said, if we can get $10,000 in this bucket right here, we can raise $10,000. I said, the mayor will sit down and get his head shaved. So,
and you did.
And we did. Now, we didn't quite get to 10,000, but I knew when that first dollar went in the bucket, I was in for, you're in for it. It was going to happen, because there's no way they're going to let the mayor walk out of that building if somebody gave even $1 and you were going to walk out without that head shave. But glad to do it, and we do a lot of
What a great sport! What a great sport! I try to grow my hair, but it's a losing cause.
It is too. Now, I didn't have much to begin with. I granted that, but that being said, I'm sporting kind of a new look, and everybody's still doing a double take on me, and I'm. As you can tell by the growth that I've had, I'm debating whether to stay this direction or not. I'm thinking I'm going to put a poll up on my Facebook page
and
just
see what everybody else says.
Yeah, get the public opinion on keep it or leave it.
Well, I tried a couple of months ago to let my hair grow out for a few months, and after about 4 or 5 months, and it wouldn't do anything, it looked like I had the mange. I thought, well, I'm just going to shave it. That's what I'm going to have to do. It's a lost cause for me now.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're doing So that's what's going on in Rio Rancho. There's a lot, but if people want to learn more about what's going on with Rio Rancho and with myself, I'd ask them to go out to gregghull.com. That's my city. That's my personal webpage. That's GREGGHULL.com. And then, as you have your podcast, I'll do a shameless plug for mine as well.
Sure.
I have the Mayor Hull podcast. Now, that's a radio interview.
It's a radio, right? Radio
station. So we don't do video. We've talked about doing video, but we just haven't gone to that level yet. So the nice thing is you can listen to it in the car because there's no video to it. With this one, people got to sit down and watch. Well, they can listen to it too.
Well, actually, it will be on anywhere you can hear an audio podcast. It will be.
Right.
We take the audio portion of the video and put it on an audio podcast.
Yeah. And I listen to a lot of podcasts like that too, with the audio portion of them in my car. So I'm just saying, don't watch a video while you're driving your car.
No, and that's what's great about an audio podcast is while you're driving, like me, having to drive back down to Carlsbad this afternoon.
Yes,
I can listen to a podcast.
Absolutely. But there's a lot going on in Rio Rancho. A lot happening.
As a matter of fact, speaking of that, I'd sure like to swing back around here shortly with you. You're going to be down in my area sometime. Yeah,
I'm going to be down there in the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to see what we can do to round up a half hour to get over, do another interview with you, and talk about some of the more stuff that's about going on in Rio Rancho. And I know we've got kind of a limited time here, but that being said, we could just talk all day, day in and day out about the stuff that's happening in Rio Rancho. As I mentioned earlier, in the last 10 years, we've seen right at $6 billion worth of investment in the city of Rio Rancho just in the last 10 years. Now, 3.5 of that was from Intel, but that's still, we're seeing so much really cool investment in the city, and it is the city of vision. We're currently installing fiber optic throughout the whole city with Comcast Xfinity, and every house, just about every house in the city will have fiber optic directly into the house, and we've got another provider that's coming in, and between the two of them, it's $300 million worth of investment that's going into the community.
And then I heard that Intel is really gearing up to getting that more in the chip business.
Yes.
And the AI stuff and all that.
The $3.5 billion investment they made here was for a new process called advanced packaging. And and it's a new technology in chip making, and they went into an old area called Fab 9, which my company was the company that packed and crated out Fab 9. So I was there when we turned off the lights, and then I was there when we turned them back on.
That's too cool. That's too cool.
It is good. It is good. We're glad. Intel's been an amazing partner, not just for Rio Rancho in Albuquerque, but for New Mexico. And you have to think about all the people that work there and the money that they put into the economy, and that money spreads out throughout the state through various different contractors, people spending their money when they go on a trip, traveling around the state. It has a ripple effect throughout the entire state. So one of the things that I always speak about it like this: we as New Mexicans always have to fight to keep a manufacturer and a job creator like Intel in the state. It's
Sure.
good that they're here, right? You don't want them ever leaving. And when they do, if they do leave, Danny,
Hurts.
it hurts the state, but it also sends a message
Right.
that they couldn't make it here. You don't want that. You don't want that. I apologize. My phone wasn't on silent there.
Well, that's okay. You're a mayor, and you probably got people
Yeah.
trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah, that's true. But you have to remember, and I'll drill this down to the simplest thing, and then we'll wrap up. Years ago, when I first took office, we were trying to recruit any type of business we could get, and Chick-fil-A was one of them. And I made the announcement when Chick-fil-A was going to come to Rio Rancho, and it's funny, they had bulldozed some dirt on the site it was going to go on, so there was a mound of dirt there because they were starting the excavation process. So I went and took a picture of that, and then cropped a picture of a Chick-fil-A sign out of an advertisement. And I shoved it, and I put it in the picture, and the post is that the bulldozers were over here excavating this dirt, and look what they dug up. It was a Chick-fil-A sign.
That's
and that was
awesome.
my way of announcing that they were coming. And it was the post went viral, but there was a comment in the post that I always have to reflect on. And that comment was, when are we going to get a Boston market? We had a Boston market. It didn't succeed here. They failed. They closed. And that sent a message out to the quick service restaurant industry that Rio Rancho just was not ready for these types of businesses. They weren't getting the support they needed to survive. And that's why it's so important. And it took us years after that particular company didn't make it. It took us years to get other companies to trust that coming into Rio Rancho was the right thing to do. And now we've got every chicken flavor you can think of, and we've got a lot of other industries that have that have come in as well.
Well, I heard that about you, that you're tenacious and you don't give up, and great businessman. Turned out you're a pretty good politician too.
Well, I try to stay away from the politician thing because if you're,
But you can't.
yeah, I know, but if you're right, but if you're doing it the right way, you'll either come across as doing it the right way or come across as a politician.
What about just in which you have good common sense and do what's right?
Yeah, that's the simple way to do it.
Greg, thank you
Danny,
so much.
thank
I wanted you to be my first podcast on
I
my
appreciate
New
it.
Mexico world.
I'm honored, and I will make sure as soon as you get it out there, I'm gonna smash that like button and hit that subscribe button. And
Okay.
Which is what everybody should do. And if you go to my podcast, make sure you do
Absolutely.
that, like it, subscribe to it, so that way you can get the updates of what's happening in the city of Vision up here in Rio Rancho. Because just as a closing note, in the last census, the state grew 2.5–3% in population. In that time period, Rio Rancho, we've grown 18%. So the bulk of the growth is happening right here in Rio Rancho and Sandoval County. So we're seeing just a bunch of interesting things happening. And that's a teaser for our next show.
Yeah, I was going to say, boy, if you had a microphone, it's time to drop the mic right there. Thank you so much again for inviting me into your home, into your dining room, your kitchen, your living room, and your wife's great, and the puppies are great, and you're great, and we're going to talk again soon.
Thank you.
All
Appreciate it, Danny.
All right, this is the New Mexico World. I'm your host, Danny Fletcher, and be watching for our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.